Bluegrass Burnouts podcast, YouTube channel, whatever we're calling this. The power rankings after week 2 after Atlanta. Zack and Cody here. Cody, it was a good week. Weird week like we've talked about, no qualifying, but some great racing all around. Got to see Sheldon Creed win his first race. Got to see Kyle Busch continue his dominance in the truck series. And then speaking of dominance, we got to see Tyler Reddick win his second race in a row. Can he get 3? We don't know yet. We will be talking about that in the preview video. But Cody, I'm going to be starting off here with my number 10, and that is Brad Keselowski. You look at Brad K in this race. Daytona, he run pretty well. This race, it kind of seemed like he was near the back most of the time. He was my pick in our Pick'em League that we are doing. But, he picked it up at the end. He's looking good. It's very obvious that he has a strong car again. I always say Atlanta's the place where he's going to win. But, he didn't get the win this week, obviously. But it's going to be interesting to see how he goes through the rest of the season. But I am going with him at my number 10.
Yeah, I completely agree there. At my 10, I have Ross Chastain, and driver that I can't remember if he got caught up in an accident at Daytona, but we weren't really talking about him very much other than paint schemes. I thought he had a really good one, but had a great week this week. I was running up towards the front, ended up with a grid finish, I believe, and ended up getting himself up to 11th in points. So I think I just looked at it. He jumped 12 spots in points this week. Absolutely incredible. And has no stage points. No stage points, jumped 12 spots this week. So, man, I'm already a big Ross Chastain fan, especially with the paint schemes that he's running. And he absolutely killed it this week. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him continue to go up from here, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. Totally get that, Cody. I agree with you 100%. He's one of those guys, like you said, we didn't really talk about at the beginning of the year that much, but he is one of those guys that he's just one of those guys. He's always going to be there. One thing that is concerning is that I did see a trend where after Atlanta, there has only been one driver who has recovered and made it to the playoffs. Now, frankly, you had the win in your in format. So it's going to be a little bit harder now, but that was Ross.
Yeah.
I believe it was last year he started off like that, and I believe he's not in that position again. He's not necessarily.
It was below 22nd in points.
Yes, maybe he was 22nd. Maybe he was 22nd. He's not really in that position right now, where he's just
made a great move.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not in that position right now where he is just absolutely, dead to the world. He's in 11th right now. But he's one of those dudes you can always count on just have
a really consistent guy.
He is. Man. He's extremely consistent. Trackhouse isn't the best equipment, but it's still pretty really good equipment. You know what I mean?
I just want to fix myself. I said, I believe he had a good week. I blinked for a minute. He finished 3rd.
Yeah.
No, he had a hell of a week, had an incredible week. And like I said, hoping to see he goes better from here.
Yeah, exactly. My number 9, Cody. I have a guy that I feel like we haven't talked about a lot either, but he has been running decently consistent, and I really would love to see him break through and get a win in his car, and that is Chase Briscoe.
Yeah.
Running consistent, he's one of those guys that he's kind of like Chastain. You don't really think about him until it's at the end of the race, and it's like, oh, there's Chase Briscoe right there. He's in the 19. He's in great machinery. He has been running extremely well. I think there was a lot of folks that kind of was on the fence about him being in the 19, but now that he's in the 19, he's looking good. He was good in the 14 as well, but Absolutely. He is looking good. The only thing about Chase Briscoe, hasn't had the greatest start to the year, but he still does have, a top 10 and a top 5. So you can't take that away from the guy sitting at 15th in points.
Yeah, I'll say this. He's right outside of my top 10. Talking about how Ross jumped 12 spots. He jumped 22 spots in the point standings this week. Finished 2nd, had an incredible week after, getting unlucky at Daytona. Another guy that, I don't want to say he lacks consistency because that's not true, but I do think you see a few more mistakes from him, but he's a young driver and he's got time. He hasn't been in the Cup Series long. When you're at SHR, sometimes you can only do so much. but we've seen what he can do in Xfinity. And once he moved to the 19, he's showed what he can do. And man, I say this about a lot of guys, but for him especially, sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy that can absolutely get it done. Moving on to my 9, I have in the same spot as last week, I have Ryan Blaney. And I considered moving him up a little bit. He got the top 10 this week, finished 10th, jumped up a few spots in points, I believe. Yeah, he jumped up 2 spots. And I just want to see more out of him, honestly. He just hasn't felt in. We're only 2 weeks in, so I'm not being like too critical or anything. But especially this week where it's like a very Ford heavy track a lot of the time, especially on these drafting style tracks. I expected to see a little bit more out of him, and we just kind of haven't seen it yet. His like Joey has had looked pretty decent. He's been leading the packs. I feel like we just haven't seen Blaney's there as much. So I went ahead and kept him at my 9, but another guy that we could see climb really soon.
Yeah, yeah. I have Ryan Blaney at my 8, Cody, so we're just going to move on from there. Nothing better that I can really say there. The guy does have a top 10 to start the year. Does have a DNF, though, not really his fault, though. But you pretty much said everything that I can say about Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, my 8, I have down 2 spots from last week. I got Chris Buescher. And this one's really simple. He just didn't have the week that he needed to. Also, I apologize. He's down 3 spots from last week. Not that it totally matters, but I want to try and keep track of some of those. He just didn't have a good week this week. They didn't end up with like horrible finishes. I believe they were top 15. Yeah, Buescher was 15th. But at the end of the day, they did nothing. Another guy like Blaney, where at the end of going into this, we were thinking very Ford heavy. They were going to be a force to be reckoned with. And we just didn't get that. We didn't get that at all. I can't think of a single time during the race where I went, oh, Chris Buescher's got a chance. Like, it just, unfortunately, just wasn't one of those weeks. And so I don't want to, I think this is a situation where I still have faith in them and I think that they will recover. It's just 1 week. It's not the end of the world. But at the end of the day, where we're at right now and with how the season started, I kind of had these two, like how I said I was thinking about moving Blaney up. They're kind of like at the exact same spot for me right now. But I gave them the advantage last week, so I just kind of kept them in the same spot.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you there, Cody. Might be a little bit of a controversial pick with mine. Number 7, I got Denny Hamlin up there. Hamlin's looked strong this year, but he has not had the finishes he would want.
Definitely not.
Hasn't had a DNF, but has definitely had a lot of trouble with bad luck so far. And speaking of the below 22 after the first 2 races, he's there. He is at that spot. He of the guys that were in the playoffs last year, Josh Berry, Cindric himself that are in that position. Christopher Bell's also in there as well. I feel like he's the guy who most likely will be able to bring himself up from that. But he already has an uphill battle to climb this season, and it is going to be interesting to see how he responds. Like I said, he has a great car. He is really good. He's a fantastic driver. Just hasn't had the best of luck this year.
Yeah, absolutely. At my 7, I've got the other RFK car. I've got Brad K. I can't really say more that I haven't already said for the other Fords right below him. We just need to see more. And for the RFKs specifically, it just wasn't their week. They didn't run bad. It's not like they were running like dead end of the pack, but just middle of the pack. Didn't see anything that was like, oh my gosh, like they've got a chance. And that's kind of something that we've grown to expect from these RFK cars, especially on these drafting style tracks. So comparative to last week, I had the 2 RFKs next to each other. I just took both of them and moved them down because they got jumped by a couple guys that we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah. Yeah, my number 6, Cody, I have another guy who hasn't had the best of luck this year, but has looked pretty strong, and that is William Byron.
Yep.
Yeah, Byron is one of those guys that I will always say this, of the guys who don't have a championship yet. If you would ask me who's going to win the championship first, it's going to be William Byron. That's just my opinion on things. Whether you say that that's the car, whether you say that's the driver, I say pretty much both. But the guy is a hell of a wheel man. Hasn't had the best start to the year. Again, with some things that weren't really his fault. You could argue what happened in Atlanta kind of was his fault. But, the guy does have one DNF, unfortunately, on the year. But he is still sitting at 13th in points. Has looked strong, has set himself up to win. Honestly, if it wasn't for, some bad luck at the end, might have won a third Daytona 500. You never know. But he's looking good. Again, one of those guys, kind of some bad luck like Denny Hamlin, but that is just super speedway racing. And we will see how he does the rest of the year.
Yeah, man. Another one of those guys for me who's just, I want to see the results.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, we know he's good. We know he's there for it. Just want to be able to see those results. And, I'm sure that they're coming for him. And this week's honestly probably, we'll talk about this more, but this week's probably going to be one of those options for him.
Yeah.
At my 6, I have Zane Smith. We talked about this, that he might not be up there for long. He heard that and he took that shit personal. Zane Smith had another incredible run this week. He's currently sitting at 5th in points and had a 7th place finish. Starting the year off with 2 straight top 10s, sitting top 5 in points. Not really much I can add. There's nothing outstanding that's like, oh my God, this happened. But Zane Smith is off to an incredible start of the year, and he deserves all of the props for it.
It's really funny, Cody, because at my number 5, this might be a dangerous precedent here, but I legitimately could not decide where to put these guys, which is why I have a tie at number 5 between Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar.
Okay.
I could not decide where to put them, and I wanted to include everybody else. I wanted to include Denny Hamlin just because of how he's looked, You
got a top 11 here.
Yeah, technically. Technically, it was a tie for number 5. But, I have Zane Smith and I have Carson Hocevar. It's the same thing. It's one of those ones, I think Hocevar is set up a little bit better to run more consistently, but they both have had a great start to the year. You look at Zane Smith, he's sitting at 5, Carson Hocevar sitting at 4th in points. You can argue all you want, it's super speedway racing. They both have a top 10 and Carson has a top 5. So I have them both sitting there. I feel like there's some other guys that just deserve it over them just a little bit. Because like I say, I go more off of, I try to not just take the hottest guy. I try to take, how they've looked in the past, everything like that into consideration. And I legitimately just could not decide where to put both of these. So that's who I have. I have Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar. I promise I will not do that again.
And funny enough, at my 5, I have Carson Hocevar.
Yep.
Man, like you said, off to a great start this season. Not that I wouldn't have expected that. Carson Hocevar is one of those guys who is absolutely an up-and-coming superstar in the sport. If you don't get that by just the way he carries himself, you can tell by the way he drives, man. People give a lot of comparisons. You're like, oh, Carson Hocevar is the new Dale Earnhardt. That's not too crazy to say, though, honestly. He's just a guy that's going to go out there, try and win, and not care what anyone else is going to think about it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love the way he drives. I love his personality. And jumped 5 spots this week, had another great run. That win is coming. We've already talked about it. That win is coming. Carson is at my 5.
Yeah, no, it's coming. It's coming for the young man. My number 4, another guy who hasn't had the greatest start to the year, but he's looked good. Again, there's just some other factors that have prevented this man from, being the best, but he still has a top 5 and he still has a top 10 as well. And that's Joey Logano. Joey Logano has gotten caught up in some wrecks that, again, not his fault. Car has looked strong, though. I feel like he deserves a top 4 spot on here.
Sorry, I was muted for a second. Yeah, man, I absolutely agree with you. Because at my number 4, I've got Joey Logano.
Yep.
And I had him at my 2 last week, and he gets wrecked by Carson Hocevar here.
Yes.
And not his fault, just kind of got the push in the wrong spot. And, it's a racing incident. It happens. But even if that accident doesn't happen and he doesn't get the finish that he does, I still think I drop him those couple spots, mostly just because of how well the two people that I moved in front of him are doing. And apart from that, there's really not much else I can say. It's not like Joey's having a bad start to the season. Had some tough luck here and there, but he's recovered well. Got an 18th place finish out of this after getting into that incident early. And I said this in the last one. Bald Joey Logano could be a problem. Be on the lookout.
He very much could.
He's leading laps too, man. Leading laps.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see. I'm one of those guys that Byron's my favorite driver. I don't dislike any other driver, though. So there are some people that I feel like watch NASCAR specifically to hate on guys like Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano.
I have a couple.
Used to be Kyle Busch. I know there's some people you don't like, but I have never disliked a driver because I will always say this: those guys are living their dreams, and I can never hate. I can never hate on anybody for living their dreams. I will hate on the way that you got to live your dreams.
Lance Stroll.
Yes, exactly. But perfect example. But I will never hate on you for living your dream.
No, and even with me, that's a big part of it. I don't hate anybody. I just think it's sometimes fun to have like the antagonist, like when Denny Hamlin was like completely beefing with Alex Bowman for no reason. I went, boom, villain. That one time when Bubba Wallace was beefing with Alex Bowman, he threw a water bottle on him while he was suffering from overheating.
Hey man, he helped him cool down. He helped him
cool down by throwing a water bottle at his face. Villain. Which is funny because both of those guys I like now.
Yeah.
My issue with Bubba when he was younger was that sometimes he just came off as super immature. And, that happens, but he's matured so much in these past couple seasons. And as a driver, he's improved so much.
The Michael Jordan media training has definitely helped him out a lot.
Absolutely. But also, that's just a thing of getting older and more experience.
It's
just one of those things that comes with time. And I'm really happy that Bubba got to that point. And Denny, he's one of the older guys in the sport now, and that just kind of happens. As a guy gets older, he just becomes fun. It's fun to appreciate what this guy is doing.
It's like Martin Truex. Like I did not like Martin Truex Jr. at all growing up, but dude, I will tell you, I didn't shed a tear when he retired. But his last race, going around Phoenix for the last time with his old championship flag, I believe that was him when he did. I mean, I was like, dang, like this is the last time I'm going to see this guy race. Unfortunately, so it sucks, but we will move on. We did mention this guy. I didn't mean to cut you off, Cody.
No, you're good,
but
man.
We did mention this guy. My number 3, Bubba Wallace.
Yep.
Bubba Wallace, 2 top 10s to start the year, sitting second in points, arguably one of the best cars out in the field. Not even arguably, one of, if not the best cars out in the field right now. Running extremely well. I keep getting texts or, phone calls for no reason. But I am very excited to see what Bubba does for the rest of the year. This could be the year for Bubba. Him and Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, what Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan are doing is they are challenging the big 3 in the sport. And if you look at it, if you look at the top 5 right now, and I get it, it was 2 drafting tracks, but if you look at the top 5, there is only one driver from the top 5 that is on the big 3 teams.
Yep.
And that is Chase Elliott sitting at 3rd in the point standings. And then you have, and really for the rest of the standings, the only other person from a big 3 team is Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. 7 of the, after the first 2 weeks, and again, it's the first 2 weeks, but after the first 2 weeks, there is more people, significantly more people from lower teams, lower teams than the big 3. And it's great to see. It's going to be very interesting to see what 23XI, what Spire, and what RFK does the rest of the year. But I got Bubba Wallace at my number 3.
Absolutely. And while we're mentioning that, huge props, Daniel Suarez being top 10 in points.
Yes.
Love to see that for him. A lot of people thought when he moved to Spire it was going to be a big problem, and haven't seen that so far. At my 3, Bubba Wallace.
Dude, we are just
We
in
are
sync,
locked
Cody.
in, dude. Locked in. No, Bubba Wallace, man, like you said, they are challenging the top three. Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick have been class of the field in these first 2 weeks, and I see no reason why that changes anytime soon. Bubba Wallace has, like I said earlier, become he's improved so much over these past couple seasons. And he won the Brickyard 400 last season.
He did.
And
He did.
you don't see anyone going, "Oh, that was a fluke," because it wasn't. That was not. He earned that win. And he was, for a long time, I feel like he was a guy that people like to hate on, and some people for different reasons than others. But
Unfortunately.
I felt, for me personally, I thought that he got pampered a lot,
That is true.
especially by media. And I understand why that happens. You want to highlight diversity in sports, but there also becomes a point where that gets a little too much. And it felt like he was receiving that treatment without earning it. He's earned it now. Like,
Yes,
he's at
he
a point where
100%
we
has.
have absolutely seen him earn that respect. And he's getting it from me, and he's getting it from a lot of people in the sport. And he absolutely deserves it. And
Yeah,
I
100%.
wouldn't be shocked to see him go out and win even more this year.
Yeah,
Would not be shocked at all. These guys are just class of the field right now.
they are. My number 2, Cody. It's interesting because we both have the same number 1. We definitely do. There's no way we don't.
No, absolutely.
Sitting it here at number 2, I have Chase Elliott.
Yeah!
Let's
Yeah!
go. Let's
Ooh.
go. Chase Elliott. I mean,
Dude,
the
we
guy
are
has the
locked
guy's got
in.
Chase Elliott. He's got a top 10 and a top 5. He's only sitting 4 points behind Bubba, but
Yeah.
that top 5 is what really kind of separated it for me. I think that we're going to see a great battle between the way that it's going right now. These top 3 guys that we have, we're going to see really good battles between all of them the rest of the year. Maybe throw Carson Hocevar in there too, and then maybe
Yeah, man.
Joey
Absolutely.
Logano, Ryan Blaney in there as well, and then some other. You'll see Kyle Larson in there every now and then. Or excuse me, you'll see Kyle Larson in there a lot. You will see William Byron, maybe even a Ross Chastain in there as well too. But Chase Elliott has looked strong this year. I think there was a lot of questions. Not really questions, but a lot of, it kind of seemed like Chase had his groove back at the end of last year. It seemed like that he was running a lot better, because he had that championship, and then he had like that kind of that slump after he broke his leg, and it's like, will he not? You know what I mean? But Chase Elliott, he is a champion of the sport. We'll always respect him for that. Looks like he has gotten his groove back, if anybody doubted it, and he has just looked amazing so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's really not much else I can say. Chase is he's off to a hot start, man. He's off to a hot start, had a great finish at Daytona. And, even this week, I think he was just outside the top 10. Like, had a good run. Like, man, there's not much to say.
Almost
Like,
won the too.
almost won it, man. And my thing is, you could make the argument for swapping Bubba and Chase.
Yes.
But for me, it kind of came down to, you have that top 5 to start the year, but it also comes down to, in a weird way, I feel like I have more faith in Chase at this point in their career to kind of stay more consistent. And I know I was just talking up Bubba, and I do believe that he absolutely could be that guy, but we haven't seen it yet. And
Bubba
we've
also
seen it.
is arguably one of the best super speedway racers in the sport
Yes,
right now.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And not saying that Chase isn't good on the super speedways, but it's not his forte per se.
Definitely not.
And now that and Bubba's a great all around driver, don't get me wrong, but I trust Bubba Wallace more on a super speedway than I do Chase Elliott, to be honest with you, and that's why I went with Chase Elliott at the 2, just because Bubba may have looked better than him to start the year. But Chase has that top 5. That's the big thing for me. Now, Bubba probably would have had a top 5 there if it wasn't for what happened with Byron at Daytona. But that top 5, we're now going into things that are more Chase Elliott's wheelhouse. And, frankly, as well, he's just in better equipment, which I factor that into my into my power rankings. Who has better equipment? He just does. Now, 2311 is, again, like I've said, is making the argument that doesn't matter. But is that going to start mattering when we get to the end of the year and it starts dwindling? We're going to see. But, just I think Bubba has looked better, but I think that Chase was, the stuff that I bring into mine. That's why I have Chase up there, just because
I agree.
better equipment, has the top 5, is a champion. That doesn't really matter for this year, but it's something I factor into it. He's got that, he has that on his record.
Has the resume. At the end of the day, he has the resume.
Yes, the other thing too is just the simple fact that I think Bubba is a better super speedway racer than Chase, but Chase is a top 5, Bubba doesn't. So
it'll definitely be interesting to see if Bubba can keep up with the number 1, Tyler Reddick.
Yes, Tyler Reddick.
Oh my goodness. Back to back to start the season. First time since 2009.
And it's very possible that he could go 3 for 3. The way he's driving, possible. The way his car looks, the way he's looked at Coda in the past, it is very possible that Tyler Reddick could go 3 for 3.
Dude, man, it is very not out of the picture. This is also an interesting stat. I remember seeing a video on this. Of the drivers who have won the first 2 races of the season, I believe there are, I can't remember if it was 6. It was something like that. Either way, there are not a lot. The worst finish was 43rd, Matt Kenseth in 09. And the best finish, I believe, was 4th. And I think it was Gordon.
I believe so, yes.
He has a chance to not only make history by being the first, obviously he can break that record of best finish, but he can go ahead and just win another one.
He could.
Be the first driver to win the top 3. But it's going to be interesting to see if maybe that plays a factor into how they run this race. Obviously, every week you want to go for the win, but if maybe he gets into a little bit of trouble early, because it's Coda, we can see trouble almost anywhere on this track. It's going to be interesting to see if maybe they don't get the starting spot that they're looking for, even though I doubt that happens. But if there is some kind of setback, how they play that. Because that's, it's just going to be interesting to see what they go for. But obviously, I have no reason to say that's going to happen. I have zero reason to say that anything like that is going to happen. Tyler Reddick has been dominant. And even winning that race with missing a quarter panel. Like, missing this piece right here. Like, he won the race with an incomplete car. And it's just going to be so interesting to see how he's able to get it done. Because I would love to see some history this season.
Yes, same here. Same here. Going to be very interesting to see what happens. Cody, this has been our power rankings after week 2. Very excited for Coda. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe if you guys like it. Leave a comment. Let us know how we did. Like I say at the end of all these, you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do. And your opinion really doesn't matter to me because these are my power rankings, not yours. But I'd love to hear them. They're not going to matter to me, but I'd love to hear them. Thank you guys for watching. You guys have a good rest of your day, and we will see you guys next time.